What is going on, guys? Fitcho here, and welcome back to the Racing Line podcast. It is podcast number 2, and as always, I'm joined by Jason. Do you want to say hello?
Hey guys, everyone. It's good to be here.
Now, on the weekend, there was the MotoGP, the Catalan GP, and there was also the INDYcar, the Dual of Detroit. And we'll be talking about those two events in today's episode. We'll be discussing the MotoGP first, then the INDYcar. I will leave a timestamp in the description to when the INDYcar discussion starts, if that's what you want to skip to. But I know it's late in the week. We sort of both had pretty bad weeks, had a lot on, and we just couldn't do it until now. That's a lie. We could actually do it on Wednesday, but we both agreed to do it Wednesday, but we didn't arrange a time. I planned to do it at 5 o'clock, and Jason planned to do it at 8 o'clock. And of course, we've got to fit in lots of homework, and that's after school, and it just didn't work out. We completely fucked up, and it really just summed up both of our weeks. But we're here, it's Friday night, we finally had a chance to record it, so it's probably no point, but a spoiler warning, just in case you don't know the result. I'm sure everyone knows by now, this late in the week, but let's jump into it. The MotoGP, and we're going to have to start today's podcast off on a sad note. During Friday practice, Moto2 rider Louis Salom succumbed to injuries sustained in a high-speed track in the second last corner.
It was an unfortunate mistake from Solomon. I don't think it was a bike issue. He just hit a bump.
Yeah, it was down to the bump. He didn't get a good
13.
drive off the third last corner. He broke a bit later into the second last corner, and there was a bump in the track, and he still had the brakes applied when he hit the bump. The bike washed away, and he slid into the barrier and succumbed to injury sustained in that crash. A tragic accident, a tragic way to start a weekend. But this led to the track actually being modified for the race. They switched from the MotoGP circuit to the F1 circuit, so they modified turn 10 and introduced the chicane at the end of the lap.
Yeah, which I can understand the chicane at the end of the lap. F1 got rid of that in 2006, I think it was.
They added that in, you mean?
Oh, sorry, they got rid of the old fast corner and they added in the chicane in 2006.
Yeah.
So I understand why they did that, but I think, especially among the Yamaha riders, they didn't understand why turn 10 needed to be changed. Because it's not really a motorbike kind of corner, is it? That tight and that slow.
They've changed. If you watch F1 a lot and you don't really watch the MotoGP, they come down that DRS straight and they have a very tight left-hander, and you can see the track goes a bit further, and it's a very looping, fast-flowing left-hander there, and that's the MotoGP track that they usually run on. But for some reason, after Louis Salom's accident, when they changed the chicane, they chose to also change that to the F1 circuit. And like you said, it's not a motorbike corner. And I'm not sure why they did it, but this, as you said, really disadvantaged the Yamahas, but actually really advantaged the Hondas. And it changed that last sector from a very fast-flowing sector where it was all about keeping mid-corner speeds up to a very slow, tight, and technical sector.
Which is good for Marquez. Marquez is pretty good at just the riding aspect. As we all know, Marquez is such a good rider. Meaning, when it was more put down to the bike, he was able to show his talent on that Honda, which hasn't particularly been that strong.
Especially in a straight line. What a surprise. We're salty McLaren fans, if you're wondering.
Yeah. Even though we keep all bias out of it, if possible.
Yeah, but that last sector, that really benefited Marquez and the Hondas in as well. Pedrosa also was very strong on the weekend. And Marquez's pole lap, oh my god.
That was quick.
I don't know what to say about that. I don't know the last time I've seen someone get pole by over half a second. I think it was about that.
Not in MotoGP, MotoGP, it's unheard of.
It's just, in general, I don't get it. It's not possible.
No, I mean, he was half a second in front of Lorenzo, and he was 0.8 of a second in front of Pedrosa, who's no slouch. On the
0.467 over Jorge Lorenzo in qualifying. I don't understand how.
That's Marquez. I think, as we said before, that change in the last sector really did benefit that's where
Honda. He made up the majority of the time. Like, he got a 10th or 2/10 in the other sectors. That last sector, that's where he got the majority of that time. And yeah, that was an amazing pole lap, but let's jump into the race, of course. Like we just sort of said, Marquez was on pole from Jorge Lorenzo, and then Danny Pedrosa was the third slot on that front row. It was an interesting start. Lorenzo got a really good jump.
As did Rossi.
No, Rossi had a bad start. Rossi had quite a bad start.
I've misread my notes. You're right. I wrote down my notes.
Yeah, Marquez had an okay start, and I think Pedrosa had an okay start. But Lorenzo shot to the lead. But then after the start, Rossi found some amazing pace, and he just fought through the field.
Especially at turn 4.
Yeah, he was really strong.
Turn 4.
Came through the field and actually got into the lead. And then after that, as soon as Rossi got past Lorenzo, Jorge just sort of
slowed back.
Just really slowed down. I don't know, he might have had issues or something. I haven't looked into it for some reason. I've had a week. I know that's bad of me. But he just seemed really slow, and he just kept falling down the field. He got passed by Marquez and Pedrosa, and he was down to about 4th and being attacked by Vinales, who actually made... Vinales, it was a very interesting race for him. Just going on to what I was just saying, I just lost my train of thought for a second. But he threw a lot of moves up the inside of people, but
he couldn't make them stick.
He just couldn't make them stick. He had the right intent. He wanted to get past people. He kept going for the move. He wasn't scared. He kept throwing it down the inside, but he just kept running wide on the exit every single time.
It would be so frustrating as a rider I got down the inside, and then the bike just pushes wide. I don't think it was down them. I think it was the bike just pushing wide, saying, no, I can't take that much speed at that angle into a corner.
Yeah, but eventually, after, God, countless times, I lost count of how many moves he attempted, to be honest, there. But, what was I saying? Eventually, he did actually get past Jorge Lorenzo. Eventually, after many, many attempts. And that dropped Jorge into the clutches of the man he's replacing at Ducati, Iannone. I think that's saying it right. Yeah, I can't say his name. I don't know. I can't say his name for some reason. But it dropped him into the clutches of Andrea Iannone. And that's where things went south very, very quickly for Jorge, that is for sure.
Let's put it this way. Iannone showed why Lorenzo's replacing him at Ducati. I think that was a bit stupid from Iannone. He just braked way, way too late, and that's what happened.
It was just stupidity from Iannone. And to be honest, it's not the first time he's had a lot of crashes this season. Hasn't been that great. He's been quick, but he gets up to the front, he goes really quickly, and then he just crashes.
Yeah, he's only scored at 3 races this year.
Yeah, and I can sort of see why Ducati picked Dovizioso to partner Lorenzo, just because Iannone keeps crashing. I don't know what's up with him, but yeah, coming down to turn 10, which is a much tighter corner than it was previously, just got so crossed up under the braking, got it all wrong, and Lorenzo, he did absolutely nothing wrong, just got completely clattered. And Lorenzo was pissed.
As you can imagine, I mean, he was struggling, as we've said, he was struggling with the bike.
But still, he was
not right. But
fifth,
to have that
I
happen
think.
to you, it's just piling on as a rider.
Yeah, he was, 5th? That's still solid points. I don't know exactly how many points. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But he was still in a reasonable position to get solid points. And the championship is a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
And even if you're having a bad race, getting like a 5th place and getting those points in Jorge's position would have been very, very valuable. But Iannone just goes and just fucks him over. It's kind of ironic considering Iannone's taken out the guy that is replacing him. But
bit of a payback. No, but I think if it wasn't for Iannone, Lorenzo still would be in front of Marquez in the championship.
Yeah, I believe so, and Lorenzo was not happy, and I understand why, and he sort of lost the championship lead due to that. But then we had a mega battle between Rossi and Marquez in those dying laps, didn't we?
I love watching Rossi and Marquez battle. They are some of the best riders to ever grace the earth. And
Yeah, you
watching
could
those
say
two
that
go
again.
wheel to wheel, is that the right terminology for bikes? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was
sounds good enough.
such amazing battling. They've produced for years now, and they've just replicated why they are the best in MotoGP in that battle.
It was
I
a
love
brilliant
watching
battle, and then Marquez fell off in the last lap or so. I think he just pushed a bit hard and used up the tyres a bit more than Rossi, because Rossi was in a position for a lot of the race. He was sort of out front, and he could control the race and control his tyres, whereas Marquez was in the position, that following position, where you've got to push to catch up, and he just damaged his tyres, and they just couldn't hold on enough to battle for the last few laps.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah,
But
and Valentino Rossi did come across the line to win, and then we saw a great moment after the race when Rossi and Marquez put their differences and issues aside and actually acknowledged each other and shook hands. Just quite nice to see.
it was really good sportsmanship. Those two locked horns, as we know, in Malaysia
They've had
last year.
a lot of stuff happen between them.
And for them to... It just shows the quality of the riders to accept that was really good riding, really good battling. And it just would have been fun for those two. It really would have been.
It would have been. Now, like we just said, Valentino Rossi did win the race from Marc Marquez, like we said. But then we had Danny Pedrosa get back up onto the podium after Lorenzo fell back through the field. And then Maverick Vinales, Pol Espargaro, Cal Crutchlow, Dovizioso, Batista, Petrucci, and Barbera rounding out the top 10, I believe. This is where I'm getting a little bit confused. Let me just double check. I saw Australian reports that, okay, yeah, Jack Miller
is in 10th.
is actually in 10th. When I wrote down the results the day after the race, it actually had Barbera in 10th, but it looks like they've actually swapped positions. So Jack Miller has actually just got his first top 10 in his MotoGP career, I believe, which is pretty cool. He's an Aussie, so he's got our support, and it's nice to see him doing well. Then you got Hector Barbera, Stefan Bradl, Eugene Laverty, Tito Rabat, what's his name, Piro, Michelle Piro, fuck, I can't say
Mike
his name.
Haley, I think.
Piro, I've just lost the plot. Scott Redding and Yoni Hernandez. Then, of course, we had Alex Espargaro,
Espargaro retired alongside Inouye, Lorenzo, and Smith.
Yeah. We're not good at pronouncing names. We struggle enough with the English language, let alone names of foreign people.
Yeah.
It's not our strong point, but these were the results. Let's have a quick look. I've lost the standings, for God's sake.
I've got the standings.
Just wait.
Up.
Nope. I've got them. So yep, you go through them.
Marquez has taken the lead of the championship on 125 points, with Lorenzo only 10 points behind, which is good for Lorenzo considering Marquez has finished all 6 races so far, if I can count. All 7 races so far, while Lorenzo has only finished 5.
Yep.
And in the same boat as Lorenzo, Rossi's only finished 5, and he's 12 points behind the Spaniard. Then coming down is Pedrosa, Vinales, Espargaro, Polo Espargaro, Alexi Espargaro, Hector Barber, Andrea Dovizio, and Andrea.
Just stop, okay? Oh, it's hurting my brain. I didn't know people could butcher names so bad.
Excuse my butchering. I can say Marquez, Lorenzo, Rossi, Pedrosa, Vinales. And
Vinales.
Vinales. Let's not turn this into an English class, shall we?
Oh, okay. So I think you sort of, through his butchered pronunciations, I'm sure you could figure out enough to understand the championship standings.
The top 5 at least.
Well, of course, we've got 3 weeks from the actual race. It's about 2 weeks now until the next race, which is the TT, the Assen TT, on the 26th of June. That is to look forward to. And now I think it's time to talk about the IndyCar.
Yeah, IndyCar. What a weekend.
Dual in Detroit. 2 races in 1 weekend. You gotta love that.
And especially when the racing was as good as it was. I didn't watch race 1 live, but I watched race 2 live. And
well, I attempted to watch race 2 live, but fell asleep. I watched race 1 live, though, see? They were at 5 a.m. our time, so I managed to stay awake for one of the races and half of the other one. Like, come on.
Race 2 was at 6, you wuss.
They were both 5:30.
I started watching at 6 because there was a full course yellow in race 2.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's talk about the first one. Race 1 of the Dual in Detroit at Belle Isle. Before the green flag even fell, Hawksworth had issues. Disappointment for him.
Yeah, the AJ Foyt guys, that was really disappointing from them because they tend to be alright with reliability, but unfortunately, that's how it ended up for Jack Hawksworth.
Then we had people peeling into the pit lane pretty early in the race to swap from the red tyres to the more durable black tyres. And during this sequence of stops, Dixon had a horror one. He had some sort of fuel issue. It just wasn't pumping fuel into the car. And he just had a really long stop, and it was going to be an uphill battle for him for the rest of the race. But then, in the end, I believe, towards the end of the race, he actually had gearbox issues, which meant he couldn't finish. But what happened in that pit stop? It just, I don't know.
Look, it wouldn't have been something wrong with the crew for Chip Ganassi. I think it was
It would have been an equipment fault. Something to do with the actual fuel pump.
It would have been to do with the fuel pump. I don't know what necessarily went wrong, but because the fuel pump was in there for a lot longer than expected, it was probably a fuel flow into the tank issue.
He pulled it off and on a few times. It just didn't seem like the fuel was flowing. And it just made it a very tricky race for Dixon, which in the end he didn't finish due to more mechanical gremlins. But speaking of mechanical gremlins, at the back of the back straight, where it sort of curves across the bumps, Max Chilton, I believe he had some sort of issue with the steering column. I believe something broke in the steering column.
That sounds about right.
He couldn't sort of take that sort of little veer to the left down the back straight and just bang straight into the wall.
It was a big hit.
It was. It was a big hit.
Big hit. But usually we like to laugh at this particular F1 reject, but it was nothing he could have done.
It was no fault of his own.
So, unfortunate for Max, who's not doing too badly over there. He's doing all right for a rookie. He's not holding up to Rossi, but he's still doing pretty good.
Yeah, he hasn't got an Indy 500 to his name.
And then, shortly after Chilton was James... completely forgot his first name. It's James Hinchcliffe. It is James. James Hinchcliffe just seemed to overdrive the car a little bit.
Yeah,
which meant he backed into the barrier.
It looked like coming down into, I'm going to say, turn 3 or 7. 3 or 7.
I'm horrible with the turn numbers.
One of those two. It looked like he just pushed a bit too hard, trying to go faster, obviously. Overdrove the car. It looked like he locked the rears. The back just stepped out, and it just kept going and going and going until bang into the barrier.
It was a
reasonable hit.
It was a reasonable hit.
It was side on from memory.
Yeah, side on, just on a bad angle. So I think it would have damaged part of the suspension on the left rear tyre.
It would have definitely
damaged some aerodynamic parts in the rear wing. Unfortunately for Hinchtown, it was a small rear lockup, but on the IndyCar street courses, that's what happens. When the rear just steps out, you can't really catch it fast enough. When it steps out that much due to the rear locking, and you just end up in the tyre barrier, which is unfortunate because he wasn't having that bad of a race.
Yeah, to me, it just looked like he went into the corner too hot. He just got on the brake pedal a bit too late and knew he wasn't going to... It just looked like he thought he wasn't going to make the corner. Applied a bit more brake pressure, as sort of you naturally do, and that's when the car locked. But as you were saying, he really wasn't doing too badly. I think he crashed out of something like 5th place.
Yeah, he was high up. And
it's unfortunate for him. He's a good driver, especially considering everything he's been through.
Especially Indy last year.
He was doing very well, but I've got here on my notes, he actually still finished the race despite that crash, albeit in last place out of the finishes. But
yeah, he was 5 laps down,
something like that. But it sounds like it wasn't that bad a damage. He was able to still circulate around and pick up some sort of points, I believe.
Yeah.
But just going a little bit back further up my list, after the Chilton crash, Pagenaud and Castroneves actually stayed out on the red tyres, I believe, during the caution for Chilton's crash, and that has some implications further down the track as we look into the strategy. But on about lap 22, I believe it was, it just started to spit a little bit. Throughout the race, it never actually rained enough to change to the wet weather tyres, but it was sort of, the rain was just sort of around, just sprinkling here and there, making it tricky for the drivers on the track.
Yeah, not only for the drivers on the track, but it made it difficult for the strategists trying to figure out if this weather was actually coming in.
Yeah.
And I think it was a bad choice from Team Penske to leave Castroneves and Pagenaud out on the primary black wall tyres.
Yeah, well, it actually caught them out in the end, towards the end of the race, as I think, they finished 5th and 13th, respectively.
That looks about right, yeah. It didn't work out for them, unfortunately.
But that's IndyCar for you.
That's IndyCar.
The strategy's a lot more variable because you have a lot more stops, and you got the fuel load and stuff. And it makes for some very interesting races. And today, on the weekend, I should say, it's actually a very interesting strategy race. And Bourdais and Daly just got it right.
Got it right. The KV Racing guys for Bourdais and Dale Coyne for Connor Daly, I always get those two mixed up, did a really good job on strategy to get Bourdais and Daly in that position. Don't get me wrong, Bourdais drove really well.
Yeah, don't take anything away from their drives. They both drove exceptional races, but that strategy, I've just got some notes written down about actually what happened with that strategy. We're actually jumping forward a bit in the race. Maybe we should come back to this in a minute. I've sort of jumped forward.
That's fine.
Very aggressive move by Power on JPM. They were so far to the inside of the track, coming down to one of the heavy braking zones. It looks like they even made a little bit of contact.
I think there was, if there was, it was very slight contact, but it just meant they didn't get a good exit.
It was very aggressive racing between teammates.
Yeah, but we all know JPM, what he's like.
Yeah, we all know what those two are like.
And Will Power, he's not one to give up a position.
Yeah.
He's not one to say, yeah, you have it. Just because you're aggressive, you can have the position. He's not one to do that.
Yeah, it was very aggressive from the two teammates, but it was some brilliant racing to watch.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Will Power is one of the best straight racers in IndyCar.
Oh, definitely.
Hands
He's definitely
down.
one
He's
of the
definitely
best.
One of the best.
On road course.
And you're sort of showing why until in race 1 he had a gearbox failure.
This is where I got I'm a bit interested because I watched the race and he went down the escape road and stopped, and then one of the marshals just sort of was looking at they were assessing the car, and the rear wheel just came straight off, like there was no nut on it. But then I read reports after the race that there was a gearbox issue, so it looks like there was. Yeah, it's very, very odd to have the tire come off. Well, it was after they had stopped. He had stopped.
Was it on the same lap? I can't remember.
Yeah, he came down the escape road, and then you saw them take the tire off, and then I believe a Penske crew member actually ran down to that section of the track with a nut and wheel gun and put the wheel back on, and they tried to get Power back on the track when the stewards wouldn't allow it because he would have to go back up the escape road, head on into the traffic coming down to the heavy braking zone. Ah,
okay, so this is me not watching the race live. Yeah, I think sounds like it's a pit crew issue, which is very rare for Penske.
But then, after all that, I thought it was pretty bleeding obvious what happened watching it. They then claimed it was a gearbox issue, which doesn't make any sense. It was really odd. I'm not too sure what the hell was going on there, but Power was actually in a very strong position there.
He was.
And he had the potential to win the race, and things, I don't know. Was it a pit crew error with the tyre? Or was it a gearbox issue? Or was it both? Or was it one or the other and a cover-up? I don't know.
No, it's an odd situation, that one.
I'm not too sure what to make of it. I don't want to read into it too much. For all we know, he could have also had a gearbox issue, and then they discovered the tyre was loose as well. don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe they thought they had a gearbox issue because the tyre was loose or something weird. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't want to look into it too much, but that's all we heard. Then we already covered Dixon's gearbox issues. Then we'll go back to the Bourdais and Daly alternate strategy. So with about 27 laps to go, pretty much every single car but these two guys pitted. And
pitted for the primary.
Yeah. And then those who pitted were on ultra fuel con to make it to the end. Another fuel race, a bit like the Indy 500. But Bourdais and Daly could go flat out because they had the fuel, and then right near the end, they had a splash of fuel, no tyres, and they got out back ahead of the field. And it was a perfect call from both teams.
It was a really good decision.
It gifted Bourdais the win, and Daly his first ever IndyCar podium.
Yeah. It's good. Sometimes this is what I don't like about when fuel strategies come into it a bit, because, as you said, a lot of the field had to do a lot of fuel con to get to the end. And
I think they ended up making... Oh, no, never mind. I've just lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Because of the fuel con, they were going really slowly, and then Bourdais and Daly could go flat out. They built enough of a lead that they could come in just for the little splash and get back out in the lead.
Yeah. As good as it is to watch the racing, I just think they should be able to go flat out the whole time, not really worry about fuel.
See, personally, in IndyCar, the fuel doesn't bother me because you have the refueling during the race and you see different strategies. You see cars going flat out and some backing off. And it's really interesting to see how it all plays out. Whereas F1, it's just everyone's going slowly because they haven't got enough fuel.
No, I agree. It makes for good racing, but is it complete rate? You know what I mean? It's not here's fuel con because they don't want to make another pit stop. It should just be flat out the whole time.
See,
we're about to open a can of worms here, and I think.
See, personally, in IndyCar, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the way they do it. They pretty much say you can fill the fuel tanks up as much as you want, but we're going to run races more than what a fuel tank will go. You can sort yourself out for fuel, just get to the end. And then they can do what they want, whereas F1 is like, you can only have 100 kilos of fuel and you've got to save it all the way to the end. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So, personally, I enjoy the fuel races in IndyCar.
It promotes good racing. It definitely promotes good racing.
The way they go about it, it seems like real racing to me, but the F1 way is just fucked up. And I disagree with the way it's run in F1 in terms of fuel.
But on the F1 topic, they don't really use 100 kilograms anyway. None of the teams is filling up 100 kilograms of fuel. Unless it's a really, really fuel-heavy race. But apart from that...
You get what I'm getting at, though.
Yeah.
And personally, I don't mind the IndyCar fuel races. And I personally thought race 1, it came down to fuel in the end, and it turned out to be a brilliant race.
It was, don't get me wrong. It was a good race.
So, now we've sort of closed that can of worms without it getting everywhere. Thank God we didn't get too deep into a discussion. Let's move on to the second race. Actually, no, I forgot to mention the results to race 1. So, the podium was Bourdais, Daly, and Montoya, and then we had Rahal, Castroneves, Munoz, Hunter Ray, Kimball, Kanan, and Rossi making up the top 10. Then 11th we have Sato, then Chavez, Pagano having a pretty bad race. Penske dominated the first half of the race, but
and then they got strategy.
They just got it wrong on the strategy across all day. Well, actually, JPM, not really. But they got it wrong, especially with Pagano. They just didn't get the strategy right. And same with Newgarden. He was doing okay, but they just didn't get the strategy right. In race 1, he wasn't really that far. He was sort of just at the bottom of the top 10, but he did fall down a little bit with the strategy. And then you got Alonso, Andretti, Piggott, and Hinchcliffe was about 5 laps down. And then not finishing the race, we got Dixon, Power, Chilton, and Hawksworth, which we already discussed. So, moving on to the very next day, and you got another IndyCar race. Oh, it is beautiful.
It was great.
IndyCar Dual in Detroit, race 2.
Yeah, now 2 races, both of an hour 40-minute length, is awesome.
Yes.
And both races did not disappoint at all.
Now, race 2 was another really good race, and right at the drop of the green flag, there was drama everywhere. Sato, Hinchcliffe, and Chilton all in the barriers.
I think Munoz and Chavs got involved in that as well a little bit. They got a bit of damage.
From what I've seen, they were running 3 wide, I believe. They got 3... No, yeah. They were almost 3 wide. I think Hinchcliffe was coming up on the outside. I think it was Hinchcliffe. And then Kimball, who was on the inside, squeezed the car on the middle all the way to the outside, which was Munoz, who just squashed Hinchcliffe in the wall and left him with nowhere to go. And Hinchcliff was really mad at Munoz, but then I believe he later found out it was Kimball, and he's not mad at Munoz anymore, he's mad at Kimball. But really, Charlie Kimball caused that crash. There's no...
I wouldn't say he caused it. I think it was just a racing start incident. I think it was a racing incident from the start.
Yeah, okay. It is a racing... It's sort of one of those crashes that happens at the start, but if you have to actually look at it and dissect it, it's hard to place blame elsewhere than Kimball.
But I think it's a bit unfair to place blame on Kimball because he was just on the inside. Yeah, he was squeezing Munoz, but he was doing what a racing driver would. Any of the racing drivers in that situation would just give him a bit of a squeeze, and he wouldn't have known that Hinchcliffe was on the other side of Munoz. So I think it's difficult to lay blame on him. Okay, it's at the start. He should be a bit more aware, but any driver would have giving him a bit of a squeeze.
See, I understand what you're saying, but I don't 100% agree. Because at Belle Isle, it's a very, very short run to the first corner. It's pretty much green and into the first corner.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Why, in that situation, you got a rolling start, you know, there's going to be people getting better starts all over the place. You've got the inside line for turn 1. You just take the corner. There is no need to push over to towards the outside and squeeze the guy on your outside, because there's a really big possibility that you're going 3 wide and there's a guy trying to come up the outside of him. There is no advantage to be gained of going that extra meter wider and taking out Hinchcliffe. You could have just taken the corner and not squeezed him, and there would have been no accident. You wouldn't have been disadvantaged at all.
No, but he was trying to get Munoz. Kimball was trying to get Munoz out of, sort of push him out of overtaking. Which, if you're too wide...
Well, Munoz wouldn't have got him. He was on the outside. Kimball had the line for the corner. There was really... If he hadn't have squeezed Munoz, there wouldn't have been a crash, and I think Kimball would have still got that position. I think at the start of a race, it's really... He wasn't aware enough as he should have been. He should have been more aware and known what's happening at the start. There's going to be cars all over the place. There's a possibility there's going to be cars to your outside. Just take the corner how it is. The run at Belle Isle is so short to the first corner. Short. There is really no advantage to be gained, and it's an avoidable crash. That's how I personally see it.
I see it as he was a racing driver not doing anything, and a racing driver wouldn't do, and it was just a start of the race incident, him trying to keep positions. And every meter you do go across means you can take a little bit more speed through the corner. So you want to be right as far across as you can. He wouldn't have seen Hinchcliffe. He would not have known Hinchcliffe was there.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't feel that he was. What am I trying to say? I don't feel like he should have squeezed like he did. I don't feel like there's... I say he's trying to keep the position. He's already got the inside line. And moving that 1 meter over to the left, it wouldn't have changed the result going to turn 1 at all. Really.
We could argue about this for a while. Let's get the people involved. Tell us who you think was at fault down below, and I think we should move on because we'll talk.
Okay. But
I can see where this is going.
Just discussing that crash, not placing blame, talking about who got taken out. Max Chilton got quite unlucky and joined Hinchcliffe in the wall.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for Hinchcliffe and Chilton.
Neither of them did anything wrong.
In race 1, both races ended in the wall. Race 2, race started in the wall.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty terrible weekend for both those two.
Yeah, things didn't go to plan for either of those two guys, and it just Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for them, and I believe Sato also got caught up in that incident a
He
little
got
bit.
a bit of damage. I think Sato got a bit of damage, yeah.
Just give me a sec.
Cramp?
Yep, just need a stretch. You know how it is, right?
Yes, I do.
My back, sore. Anyway, pretty much, it was very interesting. Pretty much as the green flag fell, Rahal pulled off into the pit lane. And he had some sort of brake issue, I believe.
I think it was a brake issue for Graham Rahal.
Things worked out well for him, considering that he had the brake issue. Because, of course, you had that crash right as the green flag fell. And that, of course, caused a caution. And that actually gave Rahal's team the opportunity to actually repair his car without losing too much time and without too many laps.
Yeah, I think. Well, he finished on the lead lap, so it was.
Yeah, he finished
really
on the lead
fortunate.
lap. He finished in 11th.
If you want something like that, if something like that's going to happen, it happened at the right time for Graham Rahal and the Rahal Letterman guys.
Yeah, considering he had that issue, he got lucky with how it happened and when it happened. Really.
Yeah, definitely.
Then next thing on my list is Montoya loses some front wing, or when I say a bit of front wing. He lost the entire left side of his front wing when he tried to pass Dixon and just got cut off, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think it was cut off. I don't think it was far enough down because
a couple
laps earlier, he made the exact same pass on his teammate Will Power.
Yeah.
While Will Power was struggling on the alternate red stripes.
Yeah.
He was down the inside, but he was a lot further up the inside for that move.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to describe it for the people to imagine it, okay?
Okay.
I understand. It was sort of... Montoya should have backed out of that move, in truth. He was nowhere near far enough down the inside. Dixon had every right to turn in. And that just... I think Dixon got a puncture, JPN lost his front wing, both had to pit.
And it ruined both the races. But did that cause the full course yellow, didn't it?
Yeah, because there was a big chunk of front wing on the track. Definitely. Yeah. And then I think this is about when I fell asleep. So I've watched the highlights video and got a list of what happened after that. On my list next is JPN just crashed out.
Before then, on the restart,
I've missed something. Sorry.
On the restart of the full course yellow, Castroneves made a really nice restarting move on Simon Pagenaud for what was then the lead. Just really assertive, and it proved to be Pagenaud's downfall after another full course yellow that we'll talk about in a minute. But Castroneves was just quick off the full course yellow and got Pagenaud for second.
Yeah, that's where the experience comes in. I think he was just more prepared on the restart and just got the jump, really. Yeah,
pretty much.
And then Montoya crashed out. I haven't yet seen the crash. It looks like he's just made some sort of contact with the wall with the rear of his car.
Yeah, I think he was overdriving a little bit. Pushing a bit hard was JPN. And then he made a little bit of contact with the wall, and that sort of just sent the car into a rather pathetic-looking spin.
Okay, I'll have to have a look at that at some stage. But then Hawksworth had mechanical issues again.
Yeah, the AJ Foyt guys on that number 41 just did not have a good weekend at all in terms of mechanical issues. I think he had, of course, race one, and I think he may have had a slight issue in practice. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, the AJ Foyt guys struggled.
But it was interesting because the timing of when he had the issues, it was right in the middle of the pit stop sequence. And Castroneves was the last Penske car to pit. He was still out when Hawksworth broke down during those stops. Caution came out, and that was Castroneves' chances of winning gone. It was
bad timing for Castroneves, but on the flip side, it was good timing for
Will
Power and Simon Pagenaud.
His two teammates who got called to pit lane first.
Yeah, perfect timing. Because Penske's a four-car team, but there are two pit stalls. There's one for Power and Montoya, and there's one for Pagenaud and Castroneves.
And
So-
obviously JPM was already out, so Power came in, Pagenaud came in, Cash Neves just caught out with
Bad timing.
with Hawksworth, the Hawksworth issues. I haven't actually got here exactly what it was.
Neither do I.
Gearbox? I'm not 100% sure. I haven't actually got that written down. But then, on the restart, Power, aggressive, beautiful move past Pagenaud, and that was a decisive move, race-winning move from Power.
It was a very good move from Power at the restart. Pagenaud, I think...
He just caught sleeping again.
We've found a weakness in Pagenaud for the first time this season. He's
Yeah.
been so strong this season, and we've finally started to see a little bit of a crack in that armour.
It's the restarts. That's his weakness. He got caught sleeping by, I think it was Castro Neves earlier in the race, and now he got caught out by Power, and he just got caught sleeping on that restart, and it lost him the race.
It cost him the race. I mean, and he was... Excuse me. Power was pulling away for a little bit at the start.
Until the last lap or two, he left his charge just a little bit too late.
And he just couldn't quite get on Power. And, of course, when he made that overtake, it was for fifth, but 4 drivers hadn't pitted, so they had to push and try and do what Bourdais did, but there was just not enough laps, and when they splashed and dashed, they ended up quite far back.
Who's that for?
I cannot remember who the drivers were. I've just got 4 drivers here on my notebook.
Who splashed and dashed and ended up a fair way back? Or were they those 4 drivers?
They were those.
Okay.
That was those 4 drivers.
But yeah, that was Will Power's first win in over a calendar year.
Yeah, I know. It was a great drive for Will. He deserves it. Yeah, Will, as we said earlier, is one of the best on straights.
Oh, definitely.
And I think he had a great chance of winning on the Saturday, but didn't have a chance. So, but yeah, it was Power leading the way on Sunday from Pagenaud and Hunter Ray.
And then Joseph Newgarden in 4th, get in.
Yeah, you're a bit of a Newgarden fan, and it was a good drive from Newgarden. Don't get me wrong, it was a really good drive from Newgarden to get where he did.
One incident, I believe, I think it was Power going to turn 1 where he just got shoved up on the inside curb a bit, up into the grass even, which was aggressive defending.
It was aggressive defending, but defending. And INDYCar, one thing I do like about INDYCar, the stewards let them brace a bit more.
Oh, that's one of the things I like. Yeah, I don't know, comparing INDYCar to F1, if you can do such a thing,
they're similar, but they're different.
Yeah, there's always going to be differences. It's very hard to compare a series to a series. There's always going to be differences. And one of the things, F1 to INDYCar just seems a lot more relaxed.
It does, doesn't it?
F1 just seems so damn super serious and regimented, and INDYCar just seems like, yeah, nice, chilled, go out, have some fun. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know, it's a very different culture, and if you want to compare that to laid-back things, you could even compare it to V8 supercars, and that is so damn relaxed.
V8 is a couple... Hey, you want to go racing? Yeah, sure, let's go.
Like,
what V8 is.
Just,
and it's great to watch, and it's fascinating watching
the
drivers.
V8s are bloody brilliant, and a few weeks back I actually went to the Winton Super Sprint V8 supercar race, and just with a basic grandstand ticket, you just get access to the pit lane. You can go just walk up. You got the drivers walking back and forth. I got a selfie with Shane Van Gisbergen and saw Craig Lowndes a couple times. I could just look at all their tyres and the warm ones, see all the markings. I could look into the back of the garage, see the cars, and
it's great. I mean,
it's bloody awesome.
Since 2013, every year I've gone up to Mount Panorama to watch the Bathurst 1000, and we camp in the middle. So you hopefully you guys all know Mountain Straight and Conrod Straight. We camp in the middle, and the pit lane, the paddock is always open. After racing action, the pit lane's open, so you can go down and walk the pit lane watching the engineers. I'm a Volvo nut, so I always go and watch the engineers of the 33 and 34 Volvo when they're working on the cars. You can go and watch V8 Supercars live, the show for Fox Sports, and then the drivers walk around and they're friendly, and you just don't get that in
It's
F1.
just so chilled. Like, I remember I was walking out of the pits, and I think I was heading back towards my seat, and I saw Jason Bright. He was just walking along, casual, It's just really, really cool. And speaking of V8 supercars, not this weekend, but the following weekend, V8s are back after their mid-season break for the Crown Bet Darwin Triple Crown. I've just checked the website to get the official name of that event.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That should be good up at Hidden Valley.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely be covering that. Just
if you're European and you haven't watched the V8s,
you're missing out.
Watching it because
you're missing out.
I mean, you guys have got World Touring Car Championship and the BTCC.
They're pathetic compared to V8s.
And they're nothing compared to the roaring, thumping V8 engine inside of Australia's best-made cars. And Swedish and
the
Japanese.
V8s are just so damn cool. I tried watching the BTCC a few weeks back, but you have like 8-lap races. What is up with that shit? Come to Australia and have our 161-lap race around a mountain that goes for 1,000 kilometers. Try that, British pushies.
But I think we'll
kidding.
I think we'll get back to the results for IndyCar.
Yeah, we've got very, very distracted from the IndyCar Dual in Detroit race number 2. But like I was saying, there was the first win for Power in over a year, and the first 40 laps were sort of dominated by Simon Pagenaud. But like we talked about earlier, we found a weakness, and his teammates exposed it on the restarts twice.
Exactly, and it's weird to see someone who's been as strong as Pagenaud struggle on something as simple as a restart. But apart from that, it was to round out the podium was Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's always thereabouts, isn't he?
He's a good driver. He's very consistent. You can always expect him. You can always expect him up near the pointy end.
He's definitely the best of the Andretti drivers, in my opinion.
Yeah, he might not always be in winner's lane, or whatever you call it, but he's always thereabouts, competing at the pointy end. And then, of course, you had Joseph Newgarden. Then,
Scott Dixon. I'll take over this time because you're struggling with the pronunciation.
It's like past 10 o'clock at night, and I had 3 tests today. I'm brain dead right now.
In 5th place was Scott Dixon for Chip Ganassi. 6th was Connor Daly. 7th was Tony Kanaan. 8th was race 1 winner Sebastian Bourdais. 9th was Marco Andretti. And 10th was Takuma Sato. Outside the top 10 was 11th place Graham Rahal, followed by Alexander Rossi, Gabby Chavez, Helio Castroneves, Carlos Munoz, Charlie Kimball, Michaela Lotion, Spencer Piggott was the first of the retirees.
Piggott finished the race.
3 laps down.
Piggott finished the race.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and then we had 4 cars not finishing: Hawksworth, Montoya, Hinchcliffe, and Chilton. Now, if we have a look at the championship standings for IndyCar, Simon Pagenaud is still out in the lead with 3 wins and 4 poles to his name, 357 points. In second place, we've got Scott Dixon on 277 points. Then Helio Castroneves, Joseph Newgarden, Alexander Rossi rounding out the top 5, of course, with that 1 win in the Indy 500, getting him a shitload of points up into 5th from a fair way down. Then you got Carlos Munoz, who finished 2nd in the Indy 500, also got a lot of points from that. Then Will Power, Tony Kanaan, JPM, and then rounding out the top 10, you got Charlie Kimball.
It's so close for 2nd. You've got pretty much Scott Dixon down to Will Power, and if you can include JPM in there. Only 44 points separating them, and it's close.
You mean wait, you look at JPM, wait, it's like
44.
Yeah, 44.
There we go.
I was looking at Power's points, and yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, but Power's 37. It's really close in that battle. I think
that's pretty close for IndyCar. Like, if you're thinking F1, that's a big difference. But for IndyCar, that's actually pretty close in the points. It looks like we're going to have a tasty battle on for 2nd. But can anyone catch Simon Pagenaud, who's dominated the early stages of the season?
I think it'll be tough to catch Pagenaud. We're pretty much at the halfway point of the season. And
yeah, we're already at the halfway point of the season. It's only the start of June. The IndyCar season ends quite early. They run through the races pretty quickly. They've had 4 races, including this coming weekend. We'll have 4 races in 3 weekends. Like, come on, that's bloody awesome in my opinion.
Yeah, it's great.
The season does end quickly, but yeah, like you're saying, Pagenaud has been dominant so far in the season. Can anyone catch him? There are a lot of drivers close in the race for second. Maybe Dixon can come through. Personally, I'm not a big Dixon fan, and I wouldn't really like that. Maybe Helio Castroneves, who's not that far behind, is in the same car as Simon Pagenaud, so it might be possible. Or you got someone like Joseph Newgarden, who I want to win the championship personally, or Alexander Rossi. I personally don't see that happening. He hasn't been that competitive. He's been sort of lingering around the tail end of the top 10, or just outside of it, and then of course he just had that one amazing race at the Indy 500, which has bumped him up a long way in the points.
Yeah, it's a good battle. Rossi, I agree with you, Rossi. He's sort of up there because of Indy, but I think the least lucky of the top 8 is Will Power. He's had Will's standard, an
he missed St.
season.
Pete.
He only got 1 point for pole position of St. Pete. Of course, Oriol Servia filled in for him. But I feel sorry for Will. He should be having a better season.
Yeah, personally,
he should have won a race before Detroit, in my opinion.
I thought he would have won St. Pete, to be honest, if it wasn't for the crash.
I've got a feeling he would have won St. Pete. I've got a very strong feeling because he had just such great pace in qualifying. But that's racing.
Yeah, that's racing. But he's over 100 points down, or 117 points off championship leader and his teammate Simon Pagenaud. And to be honest, I think Will Power is out of the championship contention now in 7th place. I know we're only halfway through the season.
Something dramatic happens. Unless something dramatic happens with Pagenaud.
Unless, obviously, you don't wish anything bad to happen to him, but
no,
I just don't see Power or JPM or Kanan, anyone really below Power, actually in a chance of winning the title. I don't see Rossi with a chance, or Munoz. Both of them are pretty high because they've had solid results at Indy. Munoz has had some other good results, but what?
I don't think Newgarden has a realistic chance this year at the championship. I mean,
they're not quick enough on some of the straight circuits, really.
No, they're not. But they're all young drivers.
So. That's Ed Carpenter Racing's weakness at the moment. Those guys, that team, when you get to the ovals, they are really, really strong. Of course, you got Ed Carpenter actually jumping in the number 20 for them. For those oval races, they are very strong. Like Joseph was up towards the front in the Indy 500, and he's been quick in the oval races. But I was watching the Dual in Detroit, and they need to luck out on the strategy to have a solid result in the straight races. He's a good driver, but I just feel like they can't get the car set up just right.
I think it is car setup issues because all the cars just. They don't look that great at Carpenter cars.
If you put them on an oval, they look brilliant.
Oh, I'm speaking down street courses.
So, really, Simon Pagenaud is definitely in the box seat. I think Scott Dixon and Helio Castroneves both still have a chance.
I think it's a massive gap, and I think saying anyone else but Pagenaud winning is a bit of a Ricciardo. A bit of a Vettel last year for F1. They've got a slim hope, but it's unlikely.
Like, the way I see it is Pagenaud's the favourite to win the title, obviously now, and Dixon and Castroneves, they've got a slight chance, and maybe Newgarden a very outside chance. Anyone below there, you'd have to be crazy to bet money on, unless something crazy happens towards the end of the season. But I think we've rambled on long enough for today. That's where we're going to have to end today's podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure to smash that like button. If you are new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 500 subs by my birthday, which is 30-something days off, and I'm 30-something subscribers off. So a subscriber a day will probably get me there, so I'd really appreciate it if you could help me hit that. But yeah, that's all for today. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.